So I was friends with this guy named Brent, and this is back where video gaming was very different than it is now. You didn't have a lot of crossover between systems. You had no, today we just call these exclusives, but you had the Sega Genesis and the Super Nintendo, and then you had PC. There were other gaming systems that came and go, came and went, but it wasn't like today. Okay, very, very different in many respects. And my friend I couldn't drive, but a friend of mine could, and he had a bunch of PCs in his house. He had like four of them. So he would drive me over to his house, and we would just play PC games. We had a lot of stuff, a lot of friends over and stuff, and just played a ton of games. And there was this one series I loved called Ultima, and I played the Ultima 6 was my favorite. And this game was so different from every other game. It was amazing. And I wanted a computer so bad, but not everybody had a computer. In fact, most people didn't at the time. It was just not quite common yet. And a couple of years later, I look and see that Ultima 6 was coming out on Super Nintendo. I could not believe it. Now, there had been a couple games to cross over at this point. But to take a game like this and bring it to Super Nintendo with all of its complexities was shocking. Could not wait to play this game. Now, I had a great time. However, it had an issue, and that is that, one would expect, a PC game just cannot be the same on a console, especially at this time. And so it wasn't exactly like the PC game. It was pretty close, though. They did a really good job. And to this day, it is very rare for a game that's native to PC to get a very, true port over to a console. Now, I want you to keep that thought on the back burner, because I have another thought I want to discuss with you real fast. The delay of Starfield. I'm hearing a lot of people say that Starfield being delayed, they're very disappointed. And I'm somewhat disappointed. I've been waiting for this game too. But why are we waiting for this game? Well, I think I like to have a game that kind of consumes my gaming time. I don't have a lot of time for a game, but I'm not saying maybe I have more than others. I don't know. But I try to at least commit, maybe a half hour a day, an hour a day to a game if possible. But a lot of these games just can't keep my attention. They just can't keep me coming back. And I like games that do that. So Starfield, with it being delayed, it's a lot of people, I wonder if that's what they're really upset by. I'm not sure. I know that's what I'm disappointed by. It's like, I really wanted that game that could just keep my attention, Right now on Gamepass PC, but on Gamepass Xbox, there are two games you could easily sink 1,000 hours into a piece. Easily. And they're both Paradox games, and they are really true ports. Very well done. They're not altered at all, except with the interface. How you navigate the interface. It's the only, obviously with a PC, you're going to do that with a mouse, which is easier. And then on consoles, you're going to navigate with a controller. And the thing is with these kind of screens, there's a lot of little buttons that need to be pressed. And it's very easy to do that with a mouse. But they have found ways to make this easier on console. And I just never thought I would ever see the day where a Paradox game would be on console. It just didn't make sense. I was like, I can't see it. But they did it, and they did a great job. And they're on Game Pass. And if you have Game Pass and you're disappointed with Starfield and you have not played Paradox games, I think that you need to try it, unless you hate simulators. If you hate simulators, this is not for you. But if you like simulation, especially like Sid Meier's Civilization series, these games I may have found for you your new passion in video gaming. I mean, it's really good. Now, I have another disclaimer. There are 3 Paradox games that I'm aware of on Game Pass. The one is a gangster game called Sin, Empire of Sin, I believe is what it's called. I That game did not speak to me, and that's not what I'm talking about. It's a little bit different. It may be very good. I just, with all the games on Game Pass, honestly, there's just no time to try that game. I actually did try it, and it was just like, there's just too many other great games. This one seems just good. It is a simulator as well, but you should maybe try that. It might be good. But I'm speaking of in that realm of Sid Meier. So there are 2. Now, they're very, very different, and yet they're Paradox games, so they have similarities. So what I would suggest is this. I would suggest you pick what genre you like the most. Do you like 4X, space conquest, science fiction, or would you like a more grounded historical kingdom builder? Stellaris is the 4X. By the way, Stellaris dominates science fiction 4X. Absolutely dominates it. It's the people that love this game. There's a passionate group that love this game, and the other one is as far as I can tell, insanely underrated Crusader Kings 3. Now, you might be someone who's tried these games, looked at them, and was like, no. There is no way. All right, I want to talk to you. And I want to talk to any of you who may have not tried these games and are willing to try it. And you look at those opening screens and you go, what am I looking at here? What is this? These games are unapproachable in complexity. You look and see these stats and you just go, I don't know how I'm going to do this. How's this fun? And there's 2 ways in which they're unapproachable. You feel like there's just this deluge of information. You just can't manage all this information. And the other thing is this, you look at the information, you see these numbers and you go, I don't know what these numbers mean. And honestly, I really don't care. And because you don't care, you think it just can't be fun. Reasonable suspicion. I think that's inexperience speaking when it comes to these kinds of games. So with Civilization, this time is just getting away from me. Civilization, one of the things about it is, I got to get it all in here fast. I felt that although it had some complexity, once you learned the game, it was pretty easy to grasp. You could play it for a long time, but it wasn't very dynamic. You learned how to make an army, you learned how to attack, and then it doesn't go much further than that. And this is really unfortunate, but if you make those games any more complicated, you lose something. Civ is kind of, believe it or not, I don't know, its simplicity is kind of one of the keys to its success. And by simplicity, it's not a put down. I'm simply saying it's looking to give you a particular kind of experience. One, you just sit down, you play, and enjoy it. These games are meant to spend time with. All right? In Europa Universalis 4, which is only on PC, unfortunately, and probably will never come to Xbox. I can't imagine it would. It's just so complicated. On the tooltips one time, it says you can be playing 1,000 hours and still be learning. Now you may go, oh, it just sounds like such a sludge, but the fact is, when you grasp just a minimal amount of things, the game starts becoming fun, and then you just start learning systems. And that leads me to my next thing that I want to discuss, learning these games. So they're unapproachable in a sense that they're so hard to learn. There's such a steep learning curve, and this just puts people off. Okay, I learned this in school. I told you I've loved philosophy, but one of the things with it is when you do your own philosophy, you look around and you think and you talk to people and you think about what they say. You talk to older people, you talk to younger people. There's a lot to consider. Then when you actually go to school for philosophy, it's a whole different ballgame. You're learning new nomenclature. You're learning history. You're learning all these. You're learning the who's who of philosophy, and you feel like you're not learning anything. You feel like I'm never going to get all this, and and it's overwhelming amount of information and data. And I remember one day I was going through my books, I was studying everything, and I just kind of got it. I don't know how. I don't remember going, oh, I get this now and I get that now and blah, blah, blah. No, it just kind of was there all of a sudden. Now, I can't speak for anybody else, but I'm pretty sure a lot of people learn this way. They just sort of, you see the same word over and over, you see it in different contexts, you see the same person's name over and over, you see it in different contexts, you see different applications, you hear other people talk about it, you start learning it. These games are kind of like that, except for one thing. It's not going to take you a year. Okay? It's not even going to take you close to a year. These games can be learned actually much faster than they first appear. And what happens is those numbers that used to not make sense start to make sense. And not only do they start to make sense, you start becoming interested in these numbers. You're like, okay, well, wait a minute. I got this particular thing to do something I wanted it to do. So I'm going to do this and see if this works. And when it works, it's very exciting. And the next thing you know, you have a little pool of information that you can grasp. And it allows you to do a lot of stuff. And over time, you start realizing what information really matters and what information really doesn't matter that much at all. And what I mean by it doesn't matter much at all is that all you have to do once you grasp the fundamentals is just get better at the game. And that's fun. And that makes the learning more fun. And that's kind of the idea behind these games. Learning new things is fun. But in order to have that dynamic experience that Civ can't give you, you need a highly complex game. And somebody has gone out there and done it, and they've done it right. So let me suggest this. My suggestion is this. Pick one of the two, Stellaris or Crusader Kings 3. I can't tell you which one, but I played them both, and they're both great. They're both really good games. And they're both much more approachable than Europa Universalis 4 and Hearts of Iron 4. These games they're designed to make you a little more successful from the beginning without knowing a whole lot. So you have to play the tutorials. That is mandatory. If you don't like tutorials, but you want a new obsession with a game that's complex, and you want to do something different, a video game is just very, very different than anything you've ever played. You have to be willing to go through a little trouble to have a new experience. And so I suggest going through the tutorial. Don't worry about how much you grasp. That's not important. You will just get it. It just requires experience. It requires a willingness to fail. You need to be willing to fail. Failures in these games they'll tell you in the tooltips, don't save your game and then when you fail, reload it. They'll say you're going to miss half the fun. And they're right. These games, you're supposed to fail. People don't realize how open-ended Paradox games are. They are literally, you decide what the goal of the game is. And that is an impressive thing to do. Like, they understand what a gamer is doing when they play these games. Somebody does something, and I suggest the channel Worth a Buy, and he talks about these games too. His name's Mac. He's very funny, and he will talk about PC games primarily, and he's talked about Paradox games in the past. And Crusader Kings, his review on Crusader Kings is great. And one of the things he talks about is somebody just made him mad. And he just decided to make this guy's life a living hell. And that's it. This was in Crusader Kings 3. And he just went out and made this guy's life a living hell. That's what he spent his time doing. This is a game that's simulating nations. And the maps are enormous. It's a world map. You can play hundreds of different countries. And he focused on one person. And you could do it. You could do it. That could be how you play that game. It is amazing. You could easily get 1,000 hours in these games and have a blast way before Starfield comes out. One last thing I'll say in order to enjoy these games, commit to 3 hours the first week of playing the game, and it has to be 1 hour sessions. All right, these aren't arbitrary numbers, this is experience. And allow yourself, say, for these 3 hours, I don't care how I do. I don't care if I'm great, I don't care if I'm awful. I'm just going to do it. And then the next week, just try to play once a day. Don't worry about how long you play, just play once a day. And let the goals that you set as a player happen just as you're playing. I remember one game I played, I have to keep this short. One game of Europa Universalis 4, I just decided I wanted to improve my economy. And I went out to improve my economy, and I failed miserably, but I learned tons of different stuff. And all of a sudden, my goals changed, and they were goals that I could actually accomplish. But that would not have happened if I didn't say, all right, I am sitting down, and I am getting this game down. If this sounds like something you like, don't let your initial impressions stop you. Get in there and just give it a chance. Give it some time. It's what it took to give you an extraordinary experience. And it will be worth it. If you like a simulation games like Civ Meier's Civilization, and you wanted something more, they've been made. Just go on Game Pass on Xbox if you want, and you can play them right now.